I hasten to add this sermon is lighthearted, a summer souffle, composed of legends, musings, nostalgia, and wistfulness, and very little meat and potatoes. An exploration, not an explanation. Any surges of moral uplift proceeding from this sermon are purely coincidental and unintended. August 1964. Lyndon Johnson is warning voters that his Republican opponent, Senator Barry Goldwater, might drag us deeper into Vietnam and cause at least a nuclear war. The Beatles were heading to the Cow Palace in San Francisco for a huge concert. Ian Fleming, author of the James Bond thrillers, died of his own lifestyle, aged 56. And Yogi Berra was managing the New York Yankees to an American League pennant, while the Philadelphia Phillies were a sure bet to win the National League. August 1964. I am 16 years old. I am playing Babe Ruth League baseball. My team, the Melton Braves, has me playing second base. I am slim and in great shape. Or, as one of my female classmates expressed it recently, believe it or not, George Manning was one of the better-looking guys in our class. Believe it or not. My team was, to be charitable, a cut below mediocre. Too many errors and lousy pitching. I was actually annoyed with them. We were losing by huge margins to the better teams. Long story short, I was chosen to be a pitcher. To be honest, I volunteered for glory's sake, not so much to help my team, although that too did cross my mind. Already, I had a great batting average, just below 400, a Golden Glove skill in fielding baseballs, and with my prospective pitching wizardry, I would assume my rightful place in the Melton jockocracy. Next step, recruit my father to perfect my pitching. I had a good arm, it just needed training and accuracy. My father was one of those men you love to pal around with, and someone who dominated any sport or public activity he ever tried. Baseball, basketball, softball, fishing, hunting, bowling, pool, gambling, and, oh yes, he had a growing dairy business. Friends and acquaintances from the country club to the bowling alleys. My 5 siblings and I hardly knew him, so busy and popular was he. I swear he pioneered a new lifestyle, married bachelor. However, if we involved ourselves in any of his favorite sports and community activities, he would make himself available to help us out. He and several packs of Camel cigarettes. From this baseball master, I expected to learn the full arsenal of pitches, curveballs, screwballs, knuckleballs, fastballs, sliders, sinkers, and so forth. We practiced many hours, and he showed me how to paint the plate, meaning just nicking the corners enough to get a called strike. But the only 2 pitches he taught me were the fastball and the change of pace. He was adamant in his opposition to those other pitches as harmful to a young arm. What he wanted from me, his strategy, was to dazzle and baffle my opponents by setting them up with greased lightning fastballs, then throwing an unexpected slow pitch, the change of pace. Pure genius. After a while, I was ready, feeling like a python ready to lunge at his prey. The big day arrived, and who did the New Columbia Phillies offer as their first batter up? Awkward Edward, a creature from the boondocks of New Columbia. Edward was a troglodyte of some renown, a big, bad schoolyard bully. Our paths sometimes crossed when I lived in New Columbia, to no event, the mutual contempt oozing from our pores. Now, years later, here he was before me to spook my debut. the personification of bad karma. Same sneer, different year. Grendel to my Beowulf. I blazed 2 fastballs in a row right past him. He swung both times after the ball was safely in the catcher's mitt. 2 strikes, 1 to go. With a mischievous relish, I threw a change of pace. He swung before the ball had cleared the pitcher's mound. Total deception, total humiliation. Red-faced Edward had struck out, and he never did reach first base. We defeated the Phillies 1-0. I struck out 7 batters in the 7 innings allowed in Babe Ruth baseball, and allowed no runs. A shutout. Icing on the cake, I scored the only run of the game. Could you script a more glorious day? It was my golden moment under a golden sun, the apex of my baseball career. And then, as the whole world was congratulating me, out of the blue, an elderly man with a gentle and sad smile patted me on the shoulder. "Enjoy this while you can," he whispered. He disappeared in the crush of the crowd. I was flabbergasted. I tried to eye him, but no luck. Why this reaction on my part? I can only explain it by saying there are some people whose very look, very voice, very presence give you pause, as if they know a sweet secret of nature. I felt hollow all over. The distinguished gentleman had obviously struck a deep down, untapped chord in my being that I had never allowed full expression. 51 years ago, and I can still see him, the distinguished gentleman. It all happened so quick. Why was I not celebrating? Too young for such strange musings, and on the very day of my victory, which now was just so much cotton candy. With thoughts such as these, nobody would put my picture on the Wheaties cereal box. Another brush with the eternal smile, as I perceive it, was contained in a small paperback French novella, The Little Saint, by Georges Simenon. Simenon was famous in Europe for many bestsellers featuring his hero, Inspector Maigret. You might say I was in a French mood a few years after my leaving baseball and joining the Melton Cross Country squad, and in the spring, the track team. Rebellion was in my soul, the irksome desire not to be like anybody else. Running offered me freedom, though, truth to tell, I was a mediocre runner. I did letter and earn my varsity jacket, with little fanfare, but I was hardly interested. I just wanted to run and run with my pals. Let me say here, before rattling on, I owe my love of reading to the most patient and sweetest woman in the whole wide world, my mother, Lola Arlene Manning. Penelope to my father's Odysseus. She always had her nose stuck in a book, my Aunt Alma told me. Back to the Little Saint, though. At long last, I have done it, Georges Simenon says. For at least 20 years, I have been trying to exteriorize a certain optimism in me, a joie de vivre, a delight in the immediate and simple communion with all that surrounds me, and to attain some kind of serenity for the first time. I was able to create in the Little Saint a perfectly serene character in immediate contact with nature and life. As for me, I couldn't get enough of little Louis Couchas, the slum boy artist, the saint of the novella. He unnerves and baffles the other characters in the story. The horrific poverty in his section of Paris is a not too subtle character also. Louis hardly ever talks, his grandmother says of him. He must be a little backward. Louis is unmoved, uninterested in what goes on around him. Though he is a hard worker and a helpful boy and a young man, he just observes, lost in wonderment. And when something special happens, good or bad, he suddenly wakes up, so to speak, and smiles, a vague, gentle smile at the splendor and misery of life. For him, it is the fascinating colors and combinations of colors and images that prompt his painting. Yet, when asked about anything, including his art, he only smiles and says, "I don't know." And when in old age, all of 5 feet tall, his paintings in the important museums, gaggles of reporters following him around, he is questioned by one of them. "Master, may I ask you, how do you see yourself?" For once he does not say, "I don't know." Instead, his face lights up for a moment, and he says joyously and modestly, "I see myself as a little boy." Of course, I've always been a pushover for underdogs with an optimistic bent, people who know only too well the dark side of existence. Simenon's optimism suffers not from that remorseless chirpiness devoid of reality, which sometimes is thought of as optimism. No, his optimism, Louis Couchas's optimism, is a French optimism, bespeaking a hard-fought happiness, not sappiness. "No living person has ever shown me how to live," could well be Louis Couchas's motto. Speaking of mottos, I think Thales of Miletus would say, "In the great banquet of life, truth dines alone." I mention this because many years ago, I wrote a short dialogue between the great sage, and me. It was brief and spoke of eternity, wherein neither tears nor laughter dwell. My question, what is this eternal smile rigmarole all about? I am walking across the sands of a local beach as I imagine my dialogue with Thales. An August daydream ensues, and this local beach transforms into a giant one at Miletus, near the Aegean Sea. We are in a gorgeous Mediterranean blue day. Naked young athletes training for the Olympics are preening and cavorting, while females young and old are in various huddles near gregarious children, noisily crafting villas and bridges out of the sand. Older men meander about or sit in a daze, staring at the sea, thinking of long-ago wars. Coming toward me is Thales himself, attired in a flowing white tunic, trailed by admiring disciples. Alas, he has an agitated look, as if he has been abruptly awakened, or worse, suffered the ill fate of coitus interruptus. Whatever, he is not a happy Milesian. "Why do you seek me?" he barks. Just as I was about to reply, a disciple points upward and yells at a large albatross landing on a bluff above the beach. It has something in its clutches. "Must have a wingspread of 20 feet, Thales postulates. What gifts has it from the sea?" He seems transfixed by both the Aegean Sea and the albatross. "Master," I persist, "why do they only smile in eternity?" Startled, still woozy from his unexpected invocation, Thales responds, "Oh, I almost forgot. I don't know where you end and I begin. You have only part of the legend. But first, let me say, I do not envy you living in this realm, this universe. You just summoned me here, and already I feel the urge to prevail, to strut and fret, engage in acquisitiveness. I even have a compulsion to attend yard sales. I'm sorry, I cannot linger here much longer. The tension and fear are amazing." After venting, he relaxes, and then, to my delight, he smiles. The eternal smile of the distinguished gentleman and Louis Couchas. The sea amuses and soothes him. He speaks. "The serpent is wise, as you know, and outraged at this realm called existence. How easy it was to trick humans out of paradise, with an apple, no less. The snake knows we have no business in eternity, and we have no business existing. You see, this so-called existence is nothing but a defect in the purity of non-being. The snake even rebukes the sun for producing the illusion of existence. Existence is not forever, but non-existence is. At best, we humans are figments of each other's imagination. With a wink, Thales jokes, some of my best friends are non-existent. We make the mistake of overemphasizing the human point of view, but we are no more than soap bubbles. Thankfully, our time here is brief. We will not long infest this world. Unable to bear it any longer, he walks toward the sea. I must go, he says. The smile you inquire about is sad and gentle because it knows it cannot help you or me. We are an accident within an accident. Eternity feels sorry for us and our plight and is compassionate, but we're all beyond help. We have only each other. You mean to say, I called out, we are nothing but a moist daydream? No, no, he answers. We are more delightful than that. We are a caprice of nature, a transient vapor, not unlike a rainbow. Now please release me. Dear, dear nothingness awaits me. A gentle smile wreaths his fading features, and he soon coalesces into the dripping wet paint of a Milesian sunset. I look around. I am alone. The albatross and his mysterious prey are gone. Incredibly, the miniature village built by the children is almost all washed away by the ebb and flow of the sea. No tears, no laughter. I fail to see how paradise would be of any interest to me. It is August 1975. These sharp words were uttered by Zoe, 103 years young, one of the nursing home residents for whom I was responsible. I was visiting her on my day off to read from my little comedy, The Eternal Smile. I did this whenever I was enchanted enough to write. Zoe was a long-retired English literature teacher whom I valued for her no-nonsense critiques. Employees of the home nicknamed her the Iron Maiden. Employees of the home also thought she was too short, too skinny, and resembled a crow with a large black-framed glasses on her beak. Since she was almost deaf, I sat close to her. But when she dozed, which she did twice already, I would quietly pull my chair back a few paces to avoid the wrath of her ivory-handled black cane. Zoe had the distressing habit of awakening with a snort, swinging her cane recklessly until reality gained its grip on her. Often, I warned visitors to follow my example, lest they too would attract the welts and contusions visited upon previous callers. Sure enough, she woke up again, her cane thrashing wildly in the air, mere inches from my nose. Thwack, thwack, she hit the bed with a passion. Finally settling down, Zoe brightly commented on my literary effort. I am likely to meet your distinguished gentleman very soon. I thought the whole baseball episode was far too self-indulgent. Your inner Thales was amusing. Most of all, I'm glad you included Louis Couchas. His I don't know was the wisest thing in your farce. I love Louis Couchas. That whole eternal smile rigmarole perplexed me, but it tied the comedy together loosely. Golden gloves, golden sunshine, golden moments, vanity, vanity. Give me a man or woman with a heart of gold. You'll know what I mean when you're older. She cackled a bit and then fell asleep again. Yet another scouting mission to check out the afterlife, if any. I noted her white-knuckled grip on Mr. Kane. As it was soon her dinner time, I gingerly left my chair. I peered down at Zoe before going and noticed her peaceful smile, which reminded me of her favorite quote from Dr. Seuss. Don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. Outside, As I drove away, a gentle rain was falling.